Hello everyone, Ronan here. Welcome back to the channel. I'm very excited because this is my first official new video of 2023 for a new what if you will. New possibilities, new scenarios, and of course, a chance to gain a whole new audience and really bring a new story to my existing audience. But before we get into that, I'm going to need you guys to take a look at this analytical stat bar right here. As you guys already know, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so that you'll never miss an upload, and don't forget to check out the community tab for updates, of course. But with all that being said, what are we actually doing here today? Well, as you guys have seen from my previous videos on the problems with the Pokemon Journey series, for the year of 2023, my What If Ash won series is going to be What If Ash won the Pokemon World Championship, or a Pokemon Journeys rewrite. So that will be my next project for the ongoing future. But before we get into the video, I'm going to establish a couple of rules like I normally do at the beginning of these scenarios. The first rule is that this Ash is the same as in canon up until this point. Every accomplishment that he has ever achieved, anything that has ever happened to him, has happened, which means he's still the champion of Alola, he's still won at the Orange Islands, he's still won in the Battle Frontier, and he's still got top 2 at the Kalos Conference, and all of his other placing in other regions have all happened. So I hope you guys are ready, because this scenario is going to do the one thing that I thought should have happened with the final season that Ash Ketchum was going to be in the anime, and that is close off and fix any errors and truly give our champion, our hero, the send-off he deserves. But with all that being said, let's get into What If Ash won the Pokemon World Championships Part 1. I hope you enjoy. First, there was nothing. Then, in a violent display, what was nothing became something. Chaos, destruction, darkness. For eons, it existed this way, until among the chaos, a being came into existence, the creator we all know as Arceus. Lonely in its newfound life, the deity sought out companionship from others like it. However, it knew things could not continue as they were, lest his newfound kin meet their end. So, the Almighty gifted his newfound family with the facets of reality itself. Dialga, the being of time. Palkia, the being of space. And because everything must have a counterbalance to chaos, Giratina, the being of reverse. Together, the four brought stability to reality and the universe as a whole, allowing for calm to reign as the standard across creation. For billions of years, this is how things existed, until Arceus felt the growing loneliness it once had before. To satisfy this feeling, the Omnipotence decided to use its powers of creation once more, but on a much smaller scale. It focused, bringing in matter and debris left over from the beginning of all things. This resulted in the creation of things we call planets and stars. While all had its love, one was shown its favor over others, the place we call home. In order to protect this place, Arceus created 2 more guardians, if you will, the mighty Pokemon known as Rayquaza and Zygarde, a protector of land and sky. With its pride beaming, Arceus then turned its attention to the negative of its creations. For every light, there has to be a darkness, a yin to its yang, if you will. The creator knew this would be a side effect in creating other things of limitless power. To prevent harm to its most beloved creation, Arceus sealed the 5 counterbalances in a prison of creation and sent it deep into the void of space, so it will never threaten the place it holds dear. Now, with its power drained, the creator retreated to a dimension of its own to rest, periodically emerging to check up on his beloved world. Over time, life on the young planet was allowed to flourish. Many different creatures evolved to meet the needs of their individual species and environments. Unfortunately, peace does not last forever, as we find ourselves approximately 20,000 years before the modern time. Arceus is in one of its slumber cycles, as it experienced what we would call a nightmare. The sins of its past have come back to haunt it, awakening the creator from its slumber. Realizing that was no dream, but a warning, Arceus opens a portal in a panic. Meanwhile, we find ourselves viewing the earth from the heavens above. Life seems tranquil. However, there is a darkness lurking just outside of the moon of the planet. The eternal prison has made its way to the beloved world of the creator and is on a direct collision course with the planet. Luckily for its inhabitants, the first line of defense kicks in as the Lord of the Skies, Rayquaza, takes its most powerful form to end this threat. Unfortunately, this predator from the void is far greater than any before it, with Rayquaza only managing to break the meteor into 3 large world-ending pieces. The dragon looks on, unsure on how to stop this planet-shattering calamity. Luckily, the Guardian of the Land is able to take up the call, barely reaching 100% in time. Unleashing all of the power in its being, Zygarde blasts the 3 asteroids with all of its might. While this attack proves to be very potent, it only furthers the danger of this world, as a barrage of moon-sized rocks fall to the ground. All hope seems lost. That is, until the Creator and his deities arrive. Knowing its greatest fear has come to pass, the 4 blast the boulders with everything they have. While this will prevent the destruction of this world, there is still a threat that needs to be dealt with, as the land begins to feel the impacts of the invaders from the stars. Arceus orders his 3 remaining guardians off in different directions, while it handles the main threat. Arceus blasts what remains of the biggest meteor, allowing its remnants to pepper the home of the Land Guardian. However, there is still a large chunk that falls to the southwest as it enters the territory of the clashing Pokemon who created the land and sea. Before they can complete their final strike, the rock slams into the earth with enough force to silence the behemoths for the time being. Over the land of the forces of nature, we see 2 of them falling to the infatuation of their only female counterpart, while she attempts to ensnare the 3rd. However, it is caught by a meteor that strikes it, seemingly erasing it from history. Luckily, Palkia isn't far behind, using its powers to bend space as a cushion while the rocks impact the land below. With one last look, Palkia fires its most powerful spatial rend at the meteor before returning to its master. This leaves 2 of the forces of nature locked in eternal combat, while the 3rd is left to subdue them. Now, we find ourselves over the land where a king and his mighty steed watch as sure doom lures over them. Fortunately, the Master of Time, Dialga, appears in the path of the falling rock, taking the brunt of the impact as the 2 crash into the ground below. The steel typing of the deity saves it from any real damage. However, it looks at the smoldering pile of rubble as a presence can be felt awakening from within it. Knowing its orders, Dialga blasts the pile with its Roar of Time, which seems to stop the presence from awakening. With its task complete, Dialga returns to the side of its master. Finally, we find ourselves in the presence of the open ocean, a small island chain dotting the waves below. On these islands, their 4 guardians prepare to save their homes as the end falls from the stars. Luckily for them, the Lord of Reverse, Giratina, is hot on the tail of this threat, blasting it with everything it has. At first, it seems things are going well. This rock will hit the water, damaging little. That is, until Giratina notices the islands below. Realizing its hubris has cost it any chance of actually saving the islands, Giratina makes one final play. It opens a portal big enough to swallow the meteor. The meteor vanishes as the portal closes around it. Giratina doesn't know where the rock was sent and doesn't care. Wherever it lands, the asteroid is that place's problem now. With its job done, the dragon returns to its master, seemingly satisfied with its results. However, little did the Guardian know, 2 pieces of the meteor broke off as it was swallowed, falling to the island chain below. With disaster seemingly diverted, the planet must be left to heal. At the assurance of his deities, Arceus accepts that things have been dealt with, so the 4 return to their realms to rest up from a job well done. Unfortunately, Arceus didn't learn the one lesson it was supposed to hear. The sins of the past always come back, and the events of today have forever altered the history of this world and its place in the multiverse. Beginning of this tale, we find our newly crowned Alolan champion Ash. His adventures in the Alola region have come to an end, and he is preparing to depart for home, the Kanto region. This morning has been an emotional one. Like most mornings, he wakes up to a meal with his adoptive Alolan family, Professor Kukui and Burnett. They have been great hosts for him during his tenure in the island chain. The thought of saying goodbye is something Ash doesn't want to face, but the day won't stop, and Ash must move forward. It is here we find the group eating. When Kukui asks Ash what he intends to do with the Pokemon he caught in Alola. Well, I had thought about that, and he was hoping he could leave them here with Kukui, as they know him and Burnett. Kukui laughs. He doesn't see a problem with that. Just remember, they will be here when you need them. It's here that the phone rings, and a very pregnant Burnett stands up to get it, but Kukui tells her to sit. He will take it. Smiling, she sits as the doting husband takes the call. So Ash, do you know what you're going to do once you get back to the mainland? Ash says he hasn't given that much thought. He does want to have some intense battles, but he's not really sure of the destination. Burnett smiles. Well, I'm sure that no matter what, you'll find your way. This conversation is then interrupted by Kukui, telling Ash that the phone is actually for him. It's Professor Oak. Curious, Ash takes the call. Hey, Professor Oak, is everything okay? Ash, I'm glad that I caught you. Everything is fine. I was just hoping to make a request of you before you come back to Pallet Town. Oh, what's that? The young champion asks. Well, I've been looking into some ancient lore around your Melmetal as of late, and I was wondering if you could bring it with you. Melmetal? Really? Yes, Oak says. I found some interesting things about it, and I would like to see it in person. Well, sure, Professor, I guess. I'll make sure to bring it. With that, Ash hangs up the phone, informing Kukui of the slight change in the Pokemon that he is going to leave here. Kukui isn't surprised. Little is known about the Steel type, so if anyone would be able to figure it out, Professor Oak can. With that, they finish their meal, as Ash has a flight to catch. Later that day, we find our hero in a very emotional goodbye, as he, Kukui, and Burnett console each other in a tear-filled embrace. But the best part of goodbye is that they don't last forever. The three of them know this, so Ash and PIKACHU board their plane bound for the Kanto region. Looking out of the plane window, the two see all of their friends they have made in Alola, seeing them off as they head skybound for new adventures. Now we fast forward a few months. We find Ash and PIKACHU waking up early on a very special day. In the background, we see the shelf that bears all of Ash's accomplishments. His Orange Island win, the Battle Frontier, all of his badges, and of course his trophy from his win in Alola. Oh, and let's not forget his Z-Ring, the most powerful tool in his arsenal as a trainer. Ash has been traveling lately, competing in small tournaments around the Kanto region. While this has kept up his sharp skills, he and PIKACHU are both getting the itch to travel again. But that will have to wait. Ash has a prior engagement today. He is supposed to meet with Professor Oak at his lab, as they have some business in Vermilion City. So, Ash gets ready, grabbing everything he thinks he will need. But as he opens the door to his room, a gleam from his Z-Ring captures his eye. He hasn't touched it in months, not since he returned from Alola. Today is different. For some reason, Ash has a feeling like he should take it. Not seeing any harm in having it, Ash puts the trinket in his bag, as he and PIKACHU rush off to Professor Oak's. But their travels will not be a solo one, as Delia, Ash's mom, and Mr. Mime have decided to accompany our heroes to Oak's. The walk there is an inquisitive one, with Ash asking his mom why she's coming. Delia explains that the person they are seeing in Vermilion City is a former assistant of Professor Oak's, turned professor, named Cerise. Delia explains that she used to go to school with Cerise. She would like to say goodbye before he and his family take off to start their new life. Well, that's nice, Ash says, as they arrive at Oak's lab. Once inside, Ash catches up with Tracy and Bulbasaur, while Delia and Oak gather the remaining things. It's here they get on the topic of Ash's recent tournaments. You know, you could use some of your older Pokemon when competing in these battles. It wouldn't hurt to take them with you, Tracy says. Ash laughs nervously. Yeah, I guess you're right. I haven't really caught anything new in a while, so I guess I could take some with me. So Ash, who will you take? Well, I only have room for 4 members, as I have Mimy's ball with me, Ash says, but that's still more than enough. After giving it some thought, Ash makes an easy decision for 3 out of the 4 Pokemon he's going to take, Scraggy, Corphish, and Gible, leaving Ash with just 1 spot open. But he can't bring himself to make a choice. This is where Oak and Delia appear. So, taking some of your Pokemon with you, Ash? Yeah, Professor. Tracy made a good point. I haven't caught anything new as of late, so I could take my other Pokemon with me to compete in some battles. I still have room for 1 more. How about you take Melmetal, Oak suggests. Really? I thought you needed to study it more. I do, but it's been a great sport about all the poking and prodding as of late. Well, I guess it's settled then. Ash makes the Metal Goo his last choice, securing his team of 5.5 for the time being. With that, Oak, Delia, and Ash hop in Oak's car and head off to Vermilion City. After a few hours or so of driving, our group finds himself in the coastal city, more specifically, the harbor of Vermilion. You see, Professor Cerise and his family are leaving the Kanto region. It is the goal of the professor to study the legendary Pokemon of the world, so he decides decided to move his studies and his family to a place where he could do so. It is here we arrive at the sight of a man arguing with a young girl. She yells at him that she doesn't want to move. All of her friends are here in Vermilion City. I know, Chloe, but I promise this move will be what's best for everyone. However, this answer does nothing but enrage the girl as she stomps off to be alone. Ash watches this as Professor Oak greets the man that she was arguing with. Cerise, my boy, good to see you. Professor Oak, I didn't think you would make it. It took a while, but we got here. Then Delia greets Cerise and introduces Ash. Cerise tells Ash hello. The last time he saw him was when he was just a kid. Ash couldn't have been more than 5 at the time. Ash is happy to meet the professor, asking if that girl was his daughter. Oh, Chloe? Yeah, she's not too happy about moving. But we don't have a choice. There's no one here to stay with in Vermilion City, so she has to come. I see, Delia says. It's here that Ash's attention is drawn by a booth set up outside the ramp that leads onto the boat. It is a sign-up for a tournament. Ash quickly rushes over, intrigued at the prospect of an actual tournament. He begins to ask questions about the tournament. When does it begin, and what's the prize? The official explains that the tournament is off in the Hoenn region. It is scheduled to start tomorrow. As for the prize, he really doesn't know what that is. He is only here in the port to sign people up. Then the official tells Ash that if he signs up, he will get free passage on the boat that leaves in 30 minutes. This is the same boat that Professor Cerise and his family are leaving on. It's here that Ash decides he's entering the tournament. Then, Ash rushes back to the adults to inform his mom that he will not be returning with her or Professor Oak. He's heading to Hoenn to compete in a tournament. Delia smiles. She had been a little bit worried about her son since he had returned from his win in Alola, but it seems that he has found a new goal, at least for the time being. Well, okay if you insist, Delia says, but I want you to take Mimey with you. Really, Ash says? But what about you? Don't worry, I'll be fine. Now, Mimey, take care of Ash and keep him out of trouble, Delia says. The psychic type nods, so Ash recalls it with one of the empty Pokeballs on its belt. Knock him dead, Delia says. Smiling, Ash tells his mom that's the only way he knows how. With that, Ash and Pikachu board the boat with Professor Cerise and his family. The last thing Delia and Oak see is the boat disappearing over the horizon. From Ash's perspective, he watches as the shoreline fades while talking to Professor Cerise. Come to find out, the boat is docking in the Kalos region, as Cerise and his family have to charter a smaller vessel to take them to their final destination, a location known as the Crown Tundra in the Galar region. Ash inquires what this place is, to which Cerise explains that Galar is one of the oldest regions in the Pokemon world, so he thinks it'll have a lot to offer when it comes to the research he desires. Ash is intrigued by this, saying that maybe when he's done in the Hoenn region, he'll come see the professor in Galar, but that won't be for a while, as Ash intends to be in Hoenn for as long as possible. It's okay, Cerise says. We won't be going anywhere. Ash wants to continue this conversation, but unfortunately, his stomach reminds him that he hasn't actually eaten today, so he bids farewell to the professor as he and Pikachu head for the mess hall. The dynamic duo then make their way to the food that they can now smell coming from the kitchen. This aroma has him so distracted that he doesn't notice someone in his walking path and he bumps into him. Oh, sorry, he says. The young boy tells Ash that he should watch where he's going. There are other people on the ship than just him. Ash again apologizes as the boy walks off. Luckily for our hero, the call for dinner rings over the PA system, so he and Pikachu run off for their long-awaited meal. A few hours later, Ash stares out as the boat arrives in the Kalos region. Our hero then waves goodbye to the professor and his family as they depart the ship, while noticing the boy that he bumped into. Well, good riddance, Ash thinks. He was a jerk anyway. But that thought is interrupted by the captain making the last call as they are about to set off for Hoenn. As the boat begins to leave dock, Ash takes one last look at Kalos, remembering his adventures in the region. One day, the hero thinks to himself, I'll come back. The next morning, Ash arrives at his destination, a place that he had no idea even existed. You see, in the time since Ash was last in Hoenn, a certain president has been busy, as this place is the site of one of the battle facilities for the Hoenn battle frontier, the Battle Tower. Come to find out, this tournament is an open invitation that is being held by the president himself, Scott. Ash walks up to the main battle facility, looking amazed at the size of this artificial island that is in the middle of the ocean. It's here that Ash sees a small crowd formed around the base of the tower. Wanting to know what's going on, Ash rushes over to the crowd, only to find none other than the frontier president himself, Scott, giving a speech welcoming everyone to the official opening of the Hoenn Battle Tower. One of the reporters asks if Scott expects any high-level trainers to be participating in this event. While it would be nice to have that, Scott says, that's not the main goal of this tournament. It's to find new and up-and-coming talent, the next generation, if you will. Then, as Scott pans out across the audience, he notices a very familiar face. Well, I guess we will have some high-level trainers after all, he says, pointing to the crowd. Ash frantically tries to look for this high-level trainer, only to soon realize that the trainer Scott speaks of is actually him. Ash, Pikachu, come on up. Once Ash actually clues in, he hurries up to the stage at the request of Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ash Ketchum of Pallet Town in the Kanto region. He is a multi-regional finalist and a champion of the Kanto Battle Frontier. This sparks a wave of questions through the crowd, but Scott has to end the interviews as the time nears for the start of the tournament. As the crowd disperses, Ash and Scott catch up. It's good to see you, Ash. So, are you actually participating in the tournament? I sure am, Scott. I didn't know you were the one who set this up. Yeah, it's been a long time coming, but I have finally been able to get 7 facilities open here in Hoenn. The winner of this tournament will get the option to challenge the Hoenn Frontier. Well, I hope there are some familiar faces here, Ash says. Oh, I think you'll find some. Then, Ash hears a voice that sounds vaguely familiar call his name. Turning, Ash sees a slightly grown, but still very noticeable former traveling companion. Max, he says, what are you doing here? Where is May? Max goes on to explain that May is off on her own journey in the Kalos region, competing in contests, while he turned 10 a few months back, allowing him to start his own Pokemon journey. Really? That's awesome. Are you competing here as well? He is, Scott says. Max has made quite the name for himself in Hoenn. It's here that Max reveals that he's earned 5 of the 8 badges from Hoenn. He even beat his dad, Norman. Ash is impressed. Max, you've grown up so much. I'm so proud of you. Don't get too sentimental, Ash. We will be opponents in the tournament, and I don't want you to get soft on me for any reason. Don't worry, I won't, Ash says. Unfortunately, this moment is interrupted when an odd boy who rides a Hariyama yells at Max. Hey you, we weren't done. You can't just try to catch someone else's Pokemon and walk away. That's not allowed, you thief. Max yells back that he already said he was sorry. He didn't know. Ash then asks what this guy's deal is. Max tells Ash that he tried to catch what he thought was a wild Mightyena, which turned out to belong to this trainer. I said I was sorry, but he refuses to drop it. It is at this point Scott steps in. Boys, we're going to have to cut this short. The pairings for the first round are up. Ash pulls out his new Rotom phone, pulling up the parents. Unfortunately, it looks like Max has a tough first round, as he's being paired with the trainer he seems to be fighting with, who they have come to know as Hodge. Now we find ourselves in the first round. Ash and Scott watch on as Max and Hodge square off. Each round of this tournament is a 2-on-2. Ash is excited to see what Max can do and what type of Pokemon he's been able to catch on his journey. Scott offers some missing context here, telling Ash that not only did he invite Max, he invited Hodge as well. Both have been making a name for themselves here in Hoenn. Hodge was the odds-on favorite to win, still officially. What do you mean, was? Ash asks. Scott just laughs. You never change, Ash. I would say you being here changes things up significantly. Ash wants to say something, but is stopped when both Hodge and Max take the field. They are both given the okay to start, in which Max chooses to use his knowledge of Hodge's team to his advantage, sending in his first Pokemon, Breloom. The Grassroo hits the field, demonstrating his proficiency in the fighting style of battling. However, Hodge doesn't seem to be phased, choosing to send in the Mightyena that Max tried to catch. With the start of the battle, things gear up quickly, with Max calling for a bulk up. This is a good play, as the defense increase saves Breloom from the Fire Fang that Mightyena lands. Unfortunately for our budding young trainer, the defense increase won't save his Pokemon from what happens next, as a burn saps the last of its health, effectively making the Fire Fang a one-shot. This rattles Max a bit, as he recalls his mon. He didn't think that it would end so abruptly. Knowing he only has one choice left, Max sends in his starter, Vigoroth. Wow, a Vigoroth, Ash says. Scott tells Ash that Norman gave it to him as his first Pokemon. It's been by Max's side ever since. Now, let's see what it can do. Hoping to end this quick, Max makes his first move by calling for a play rough. Vigoroth goes all out as it charges in, but Mightyena lets it come. This allows Mightyena to strike first, hitting the Wild Sloth. But it doesn't go unpunished, as Vigoroth shakes it off and connects with the Fairy-type move, causing super effective damage. Unfortunately, this isn't enough to take down the Dark-type, giving Hodge another chance. With things reaching their climax, Max orders Vigoroth in for one final play rough. Let's end this, he yells. His starter's blood begins to boil as it bolts down the field. However, Hodge seems at ease, like he's got a plan. Telling Mightyena to wait, Hodge watches for the perfect opportunity. Then he sees it. Mightyena, duck, he yells, causing the fairy move to miss, allowing Mightyena to land a payback that hits for double the damage, ending the battle. Max's spirit is crushed. He thought he could mount a comeback, especially with Ash watching, but instead, he was just a footnote. Max recalls Vigoroth, only for Hodge to offer a handshake. You battled well, but be careful whose Pokemon you try to catch in the future. Max smiles, but don't think you'll win when we battle in the Hoenn League. I look forward to it, Hodge says, as he leaves to prepare for his next round. Well, it looks like I'm up next, Ash says. Scott stops our hero before he heads down. Ash, show them the strength of a frontier champion. Ash smiles. Come on, buddy. We got a tournament to win. Pikachu mounts Ash's shoulder as they run for the battlefield. Ash does exactly what Scott asked, easily making his way through the rounds using Gibble, Corphish, and Scraggy. But he's not the only one. Hodge as well has won his way through the ranks, eventually finding his way to the finals, where he and Ash stand face to face. Max and Scott are impressed that Ash has not dropped a single battle with any of his Pokemon, but neither has Hodge. Max asks who Scott thinks is going to win, to which he replies, though Hodge is the odds-on favorite, if there is one thing that he has learned, it's don't count Ash and his creativity out. You're right about that, Max says, as they watch the finals unfold. The battle between the two finalists starts, with Ash sending in Mimey as his first Pokemon. This is his first real battle, and Max remembers Mr. Mime being more of a housekeeper than anything, even commenting so to Scott. Well, let's see what happens here, Scott says, as Hodge chooses his first Pokemon, Hariyama. The ref calls for the battle to start, and Hodge wastes no time calling for a flurry of force palms. However, Mimey's cool demeanor prevails here, as he uses his mime-like skills to easily dodge the attack, then lands a focus punch at the command of Ash. This hits hard, but Hariyama is still able to battle, as Hodge orders a series of arm thrusts. Ash knows he has to restrict this fighting type's movements, so he orders Mimey to use Reflect as it moves in a circle around its opponent. Before long, the strategy of Ash becomes clear, as Hariyama is now encased in a box of Reflects, making it unable to move. With his opening now secure, a Psychic from Mimey ends this battle with one final strike. Hodge is impressed at what Ash was able to accomplish. He didn't think that it would be that one-sided, but he won't lose so easily as he recalls Hariyama for his final choice, Mightyena. Ash asks Mimey if it's ready for another win, but the Mime turns, throwing up a next, declaring it will no longer battle. A bit surprised, but Ash understands, so he recalls it. Well, Pikachu, you ready? The mouse sparks, jumping in for the first time in the tournament. Max and Scott continue to watch. With Ash not having the numbers advantage here, things have finally gotten a little interesting. With the start of the second round, Pikachu engages with the quick attack that connects. Mightyena is unfazed by this little damage, as it responds in kinds with a snarl that catches the mouse. Ash then calls for an Iron Tail, in hopes of hitting for some serious damage. It does, but once again, Pikachu's speed is its weakness here, as it hits with a payback, sending the mouse airbound. Ash sees an opening here, calling for a Thunderbolt, but Hodge is ready here, countering with a snarl that causes the electric move to shoot upward, breaking a hole in the roof of the building. Ash knows he can close this out, so he orders one last Iron Tail, but Pikachu is hit with one more snarl, sending it flying to the opening in the roof. This is where Ash's unpredictability comes in, as he orders an Electro Web that Pikachu fires into the hole. Now it has a springboard that it can use to increase its speed as it dives in the direction of Mightyena. Realizing this is their chance, Hodge orders a Sucker Punch as a counter. Unfortunately for the two, Pikachu is supersonic, as it lands an Iron Tail at the command of Ash that craters the Dark Doggo and ends the battle. What follows next is the ending ceremony, where Ash is given the prize as an invitation to the Hoenn Battle Frontier, while Hodge gets a second prize, a set of colorful flutes. But Ash has something to say. While the invitation is nice and all, he doesn't really want it. The Battle Frontier is something he's already done, so how about him and Hodge trade? Ash will take the flutes, and Hodge can challenge the Frontier. Of course, Scott has to make the final decision. Scott can't refuse a request from his champion, so he makes it official, and the two switch their prizes. Hodge is in complete disbelief of this kid, but he's grateful that Ash would do that for him. He won't forget it. He and Ash shake hands, and the tournament comes to an end, with Max and Ash making their way to the Pokemon Center for the night. It's here that Max finds out that Ash is going to spend a week or two in Hoenn, challenging some of the local tournaments. Max asks if they can travel together like old times, to which Ash replies only if they're going the same way of his next tournament. Just so happens that Max's next badge is in Mauville City, while Ash's next tournament is in Slateport City, which just so happens to be on the way. So the two decide to travel for the time being. Eventually, it comes to the day of Max's gym battle, about 3 weeks after the Frontier Tournament. Ash won the other tournaments that he's competed in, using primarily Gibble and Scraggy. They both have been enjoying their time away from Oak's lab, so he decided to join Max while he challenged for his next gym badge, which, even though Watson is as energetic as ever, Max was still able to win. It's at this point that Ash decides to part ways with Max and head back to Kanto. Wishing Max luck in the Hoenn League, Ash boards the boat that's leaving Mauville Harbor bound for Vermilion City. However, this boat is much smaller than the one that Ash used to come to Hoenn, so it'll take a week or two until he's back home. It's now day 3 of Ash's boat ride, and he's decided to let his Pokemon out of their balls so they can enjoy the sunshine. The group seems to be having fun, as Ash watches on. Corphish is enjoying the open water, as it's been a long time since it's been in the ocean. Ash smiles as he watches, but try as he might, his mind is restless. He's having trouble with the reality of his situation. Since he's left Alola, there's been a void. He's become a regional champion, and now he finds himself wondering what's next. He's achieved his biggest goal, as far as he he sees it, becoming a regional champion means he's become a Pokemon master, right? With Ash lost in his thoughts, he's numb to the fact that Pikachu has known something is wrong with its trainer. It often finds him lost in thought when they are not in the midst of battle. Unfortunately, Pikachu is unsure on how to help Ash, only doing what it can by being there for its trainer, the only way it knows how. Unfortunately, this haze they are both in is interrupted when the captain bursts from the deck. "Hey boy, are you listening? Bring in your Pokemon. There is a storm on the horizon." Ash looks only to see what the captain said is an understatement. Clouds, high winds, giant waves, and whirlpools have begun to form in the path of the boat. Finally cluing into the severity of the situation, Ash recalls everyone while calling Pikachu to come back. Ash then heads inside to get out of the rain that is now overhead. He asks the captain if there's anything he can do, since it's only the two of them on the boat. The captain only says one word: pray. What follows is an intense ride on the roaring ocean as the captain uses all of his experience to navigate the fine line of high waves and fast whirlpools, trying not to get caught in either. Unfortunately, the small boat provides little salvation as it is thrown like a rag doll. Eventually, the two are met with a grim reality when a rogue wave washes the dinghy into the direction of a massive whirlpool. Realizing they don't have much choice, the captain calls to abandon ship. Running for the bow, both Ash and the captain jump for their lives, trying to avoid the now water tomb as it is pulled into the whirlpool. But now, the group is met with a new problem. They are being pulled into the whirlpool at a high rate of movement. With no other option, Ash calls on Corphish to offer any help that it can, but the little lobster isn't strong enough to pull both Ash and the hefty-sized captain. Thinking fast, Ash sees their only chance out of this. There is a wave heading their way that would surely take them under to their certain doom. But Ash tells Corphish to charge 2 crab hammers, and to be ready. They have to time it just right. With the wave now barreling down on them, Ash orders the crab hammers to break the wave, while he tells Pikachu to use Iron Tail behind them. This effect creates a reverse current that pushes them from the whirlpool, sending them into the open ocean. Now at the mercy of the elements and with the storm raging, Ash is starting to lose consciousness. The last thing he sees as he slips from Corphish's back is it and Pikachu diving for him, and a pair of eyes deep in the depths of the ocean around them. It is here that we shift perspective to our favorite terrible trio, Jessie, James, and Meowth. For once in their pathetic lives, the three are not actually following Ash and his friends. Believe it or not, they were actually on assignment directly from Giovanni and have found themselves in the Galar region, specifically the southernmost part. Jessie is complaining about how cold it is in this place, only to be told by Meowth to quit her whining. It's her fault they're here in the first place. If she wouldn't have demanded a high-level assignment, then we wouldn't have been punished like this. James also drives this point home, as she just had to bring up the loss that the boss had to the twerp and his Pikachu and Unova, and how she felt like she hadn't been taken seriously as a Team Rocket operative ever since. This comment enrages the redhead, only for Meowth to ask if James saw that look he gave Jessie, the coldness of that stare. She's lucky he didn't put her on blimp duty like those chumps, Cassidy and Biff. That comment stops Jessie in her tracks, as she grabs the file from Meowth. What are we doing here anyway? What's so special about this frozen dump? Grabbing back the file, Meowth tells Jessie this place is called the Crown Tundra. It's always cold. According to the file on this place, which seems to be packed with information, there is some sort of power here that we are to obtain. Surprisingly, even though the information they have is extensive, the only thing that they have to go on is what Matori told them before they left the Team Rocket base. You will know it when you see it. The three of them hang their heads, realizing that this is just a dead-end mission to get them out of the boss's way. At this point, James and Meowth begin to question the actual validity of doing anything on this mission. They've begun to notice that Team Rocket's headquarters is different than it used to be. It seems like every time they check in, the base is less full than the previous times. However, the conversation is put on hold when our trio of evildoers' tummies begin to growl, as they realize that they rushed off before getting a free meal from the base, and now they are in the middle of nowhere, with no place to spend money to buy supplies. Not that they had any money to begin with. With a sigh, they can only hope to find some sort of food and shelter soon, as a storm is brewing off the coast of this wild wilderness. Luckily, they don't have to wait long, as Jessie spots something off in the distance. Something that resembles the color of her hair that towers over the surrounding land. Without hesitation, she takes off with James and Meowth in tow, yelling for her to hold on. Unfortunately for our favorite trio of misfits, they don't really pay attention to the file given to them due to their lack of confidence in it, as they quickly find out that the Crown Tundra is home to some very high-level Pokemon, ones that are very aggressive and territorial. They experience this firsthand, with James and Meowth trying to catch up to Jessie, run headfirst into a family of Nidoking and Nidoqueen with their baby Nidoran. This doesn't bode well for them, as they, along with Jessie, are forced to evade Papa Nido at all costs. However, just as they exit exit that territory, they find themselves in the midst of an onset of attacks from Gerudogon and Gabite, as well as many other wild Pokemon, as they make their way through a cave by the skin of their teeth. At this point, James and Meowth are done. Throwing up their hands, both declare that they can't take it anymore. All this pain and hardship they go through, and for what? No reward, no promotion, not even a good job. The frustration is at a boiling point, but Jessie tells them both to shut their traps. They have arrived at their destination. Looking ahead, the trio can see what she means. What they saw was actually a giant tree, and where there's a giant tree, there must be giant fruit. Suddenly, they rush the tree, putting everything they have into climbing the massive maple. It takes some time, but they eventually make it to the top, though they are extremely exhausted from the climb and the lack of nourishment. What they find is a feast fit for a king. Meowth and James begin to apologize to Jessie for doubting her as the three pick away. With no limits to their gluttony, they begin to spread out, picking as many fruits as they can. But, as if the universe has a sense of irony, Jessie comes face to face with the Pokemon that she's never seen before, but seems oddly familiar. One thing is certain, this thing is big, and it doesn't look happy that they have climbed into this tree, as this bird seems to have nested here. Jessie begins backing away slowly, out of fear, trying not to startle their new friend, while trying to alert Meowth and James, who are obliviously picking away. Jessie then turns, whispering for them to drop the fruit, only for them to question her on it. Hey, you're the one who brought us here. There's no way we're giving up grub like this. Jessie yells at the two to drop it at the top of her lungs. Both turn to see Jessie and what appears to be a black fire blasting towards them. This pushes the trio out of the tree, skybound, as they blast off further inland, while all the fruits that they had picked fall to the ground. Now we find ourselves on the shore of a beach that is witness to a very violent sea. Whirlpools and tornadoes dot the horizon. It's here that Ash begins to stir, coming to after a very dangerous trial of skill and bravery from Corphish and Pikachu. The two greet their trainer, happy to see that he is okay. Ash begins to look around. What is this place, he thinks to himself? But this is then interrupted by the thought of the other person that he was with. Where's the captain, he yells, in panic. But both Pokemon hang their heads in shame. Corphish signals that he looked for the captain, but couldn't find any sign of the old sea dog. That brings a moment of sadness to Ash. What could he have done differently, he thinks? But there's little time to dwell on this. He has to contact Professor Oak so that he can try to find out where he is and maybe get rescued. Pulling out his Rotom phone, Ash tries to make a call, but it informs him that something is blocking his signal. Nothing can get in or out. Great. What else can go wrong? However, Ash won't have to wait to find out, as a screeching cry can be heard coming from off in the distance. Looking around for the first time, Ash begins to take in his surroundings. Off in the distance, our hero can see what looks like a tree and something flying out of it. Ash knows he has to be careful. Whatever that was could be dangerous. Deciding he can't wait around, Ash recalls Corphish to give it some rest and decides to head inland. Ash takes his time making his way through the wilds of this land, as not to spook any of the Pokemon. It appears that human interaction is something that they may not be used to, judging by the way they interact with Ash. Luckily for our hero, they seem to be more scared of Ash than angered that he is here. This is a good thing, as he is still feeling the effects of nearly drowning. After a brief walk and finding some wild fruit that Ash and Pikachu snack on, they hear that sound again, but it's a little off, kind of like there were two of them, and whatever it was, it or they don't sound happy. Ash can hear what sounds like a battle of some sorts. No, a fight, like a territorial dispute. It's coming from that big red tree, Ash thinks. While Ash is trying to decipher what's going on, Pikachu notices some movement off in a bushy area right behind him. At first, the sound seems far away, until the mouse listens closer. It's moving right towards them. In a panic, Pikachu tries to get Ash's attention, which at first falls on deaf ears. That is, until Ash catches a thunderbolt. Yelling, Ash asks what that was for, only for Ash to finally hear the noise. It's the sound of rolling thunder that is coming from the ground. It's a sound that Ash is all too familiar with after being run over by his Tauros back in Pallet Town. Realizing there is a stampede heading their way, Ash tells Pikachu to run. As they turn, the first of the culprits bursts through the bushes, colliding with Ash headfirst. Rubbing his head, Ash looks at what just hit him, only to realize that it's someone he's seen before. Hey, you're that kid from the boat ride, Ash yells. Now the other kid realizes that his path was stopped by something hard, only to see Ash staring back at him in shock. This sparks frustration for the boy, who has only known that feeling every time he has run into Ash. The boy wants to pick a fight, but then realizes that there's no time. He needs to move or be flattened like a pancake. Taking off, the boy tells Ash that they can argue later. It's here that Ash sees what he was running from. I heard of the Mamoswine evolutionary line, but they don't look angered. They look frightened, only for Pikachu to snap Ash back. The young champion takes off in the direction of the boy in hopes that he will be able to help Ash get out of this wild place. After a few moments of running, Ash looks back, only to see that the herd has come to a grinding stop and that he has caught up with the boy that sped off. "Hey kid," Ash yells, "you wanna at least tell me your name?" But dead silence comes from the kid. It's like fear has washed over him. Looking at what the boy is staring at, Ash finally gets the whole picture. He has arrived at that big red tree, and what he feared is actually happening. There are 3 Pokemon that Ash has never seen before, attacking everything in sight. This fight is a brutal one, showing just how removed this area is from contact with humans. Ash slowly approaches the kid, as not to draw any attention to them. Whispering, Ash says, "Hey, we need to back away slowly before they notice." But before Ash can finish the sentence, the boy lets out a yelp, startled that Ash approached him from behind. Unfortunately, this catches the attention of the 3 battling birds. Now turning their attention to these other intruders, they all attack at once. Ash tells the kid they need to move, but it's no use as this guy is frozen in fear. Knowing he can't leave him here, Ash tells Pikachu to use Electro Web to try and catch the 3 attacks. The mouse does so, but there's too much energy to be contained at once, causing the web to fail. Thinking fast, Ash sends in Melmetal to take the blow at the last second. This finally rocks the kid out of his catatonic state, as Ash is asking if he's okay. The boy says he's fine, and he doesn't need Ash's help. Ash then reminds him that if it wasn't for his Pokemon, then the boy would be on the well done side. This gets a little attitude from the boy that Ash sees, but realizes that they can't worry about that now. They need to battle. Ash then tells the boy that they will need all the help they can get, so asks the boy to send in his Pokemon to battle. The boy sheepishly replies that he doesn't have any Pokemon. "What?" Ash yells. "Then what are you doing in a place like this?" "Well, if you must know, I was trying to catch my first Pokemon, Mew." Ash looks at this boy in pure disbelief. Now frustrated, Ash tells the boy to step back. He will handle this, as the birds have turned all of their attention to our champion and his new friend. Asking Melmetal if he's alright, the metallic liquid stands up, signaling it's fine. "Well, it's up to us," Ash yells. Pulling out his Rotom Dex, Ash learns that these 3 are the Galarian forms of 3 Pokemon, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Now things make sense. They look a little familiar, and their power is legendary status. With all of the information in his hands that he can have, Ash chooses to send in the rest of his Pokemon. Corphish and Mimey are sent after Articuno. Gible and Scraggy are sent after Moltres. And the last 2, Pikachu and Melmetal, are going after Zapdos. From here, war breaks out, as Ash tells everyone to keep the battle as close to the ground as possible. The boy watches on, as surprisingly, Ash and his Pokemon are able to hold their own against the legendary trio. Almost like they've done this before. This is going well for all of the Pokemon, except one, Melmetal. Realizing that Pikachu was his trump card here, Ash sent it to help the other 2 groups, leaving just him and his gooey metal monster. Ash figured they could handle it, but there's one thing that he overlooked, the fact that this Zapdos is a fighting type and knows how to use it. Now with Ash's attention split giving commands, it becomes difficult to keep up with Melmetal's battle. This finds Zapdos connecting with a thunderous kick that topples the metal Goliath, causing it to land on its back. Seeing an opening, the savage Roadrunner jumps on Melmetal, driving its overpowered legs into the center of the metal mass. Ash tries to give it commands, but slowly his team is starting to be overwhelmed, and he can see it. As Zapdos continues to drive Melmetal into the ground, Ash can do nothing but watch as his team is being made fools of. Thinking this could be the end, they suddenly are met with a beam of light that erupts from where Zapdos and Melmetal were. While the foul escapes, Ash can't seem to locate his Pokemon. That is, until something begins to emerge from the light that is growing in size. Ash looks closely, only to see Melmetal as it morphs and grows in size. Now towering even over the tree, Melmetal begins this rampage through the surrounding area. Ash is at a loss for what's going on. This is where the boy of little use has something to offer. He says that his name is Go, and that Melmetal was introduced to a concentrated version of Dynamax energy, as he points to the ground where many fruits that were spread out over the base of the tree have been smashed due to Zapdos driving Melmetal into the ground. "Well, how do we stop it?" Ash asks. "Dynamax will eventually run out," Go says, "but your Pokemon got a concentrated dose of it, so there's no telling when it will end." "What if we hit it with something of equal energy?" Ash says. "Could it overload it?" "You could, but that would require another Dynamax," Go says. "Trainers here in the Galar region use them all the time in battle, but I don't see you with the Dynamax band." "I don't have that," Ash says, "but I do have something that may do the trick." Watching Melmetal attack the bird trio, who seem to be running scared, Ash reaches into his bag, pulling out a Z-Ring. Ash calls to Pikachu, while telling all of his Pokemon to stand back, Buddy, we need to stop Melmetal. Are you ready? Smirking, Pikachu dons Ash's hat as the two's movements become one, charging the electric rodent. This catches Melmetal's attention, as this is familiar to it, but the overload of the Dynamax energy clouds its judgment, and it sees this as a threat. With one final movement, Pikachu's ultimate technique is ready, as the electric mouse fires, only for Melmetal to launch an energy attack of its own. Colliding in a brilliant struggle, they fight for supremacy and dominance over who will be the victor. And that, my friends, is where we are going to leave things for now. Who will win this epic struggle between Melmetal and Pikachu? Why is Go in the Crown Tundra? And what was the reason Team Rocket was here as well? And of course, how'd you guys feel about this first part? Let me know in the comments down below. And that's all we have for this episode today, guys. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I really hope you consider following me for future content. Now, if you really want to support me on other platforms, please hop on over to my Discord, where you can meet some like-minded people and conversate with them and me. You can also follow me on Twitter, to where I post sometimes and give you behind-the-scenes content that I'm currently working on. And if you want to go a little bit further, consider becoming a YouTube channel member or a patron. For only $5 a month, you're going to get up to a week's early access to all of my videos, plus you'll get exclusive content as well. With all that being said, it's time to sign out the video the best way we know how, by thanking the sponsors, the YouTube channel members, and the patrons. For the YouTube channel members, we have Still There 123, Irua Karina, Pickle, ASTD. And for the patrons, we have Silver Heart Soul, Robert, Vegito Gaming 78, Andrew McCartney, Holosif, Julian Rodriguez, Ruben Watson, Lord Explosion Murder, Assassin 139, Flyer 943, Shadow Dragon, Kate McKnight, Kevin Atran, Drax, Truevolt, Dino King, Warney Taylor, Plus Ultraman, Megger, Mike Logan, Eddie, Kendall Green, Earth Dragon, John Larson, Forbidden Super, Dylan Nicholson, Gerald Smith, Normandy 1998, Chris Lackerman, Trainer Rad 164, Robert, Johnny, Brad 1, Ifosa Amid, Indigo Saturn 64, Kevin Malula, Chris Collins, Nicholas Onthank, Christian Anderson, Thomas Watson, Justin Ray, Gray Leo, Irving 14209, Nathan Perry, TC Com, Dylan, Wolfdog 31, and Mario Pikachu. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.